Hi, I'm Ross from Smith Chartered Accountants in Hamilton. We're just going to have a quick look at an example. So what I try and do is I try and be unbiased, and I try and just search Trade Me and go for the first property that I can find that's a rental property, that it's got the value and it's got the rent. So I'll share my screen with you, so hopefully you can see my example. This is a property, so yeah, I just searched on Trade Me. It's actually a property in Wanganui. The asking price is $249. It's a 3-bedroom house. It's on a reasonable bit of land, and it's got the rental appraisal at 300 to 320. So just looking at that property, what I would then normally start doing is start a simple spreadsheet of what the numbers sort of look like. So we'll have a look at that, and I'll bring up my spreadsheet. And hopefully now you can see my spreadsheet. So I might put in the example of it, Wanganui example. Maybe we get it for $245. It's advertised at $249. It was the advertised price. And then, yeah, I generally always work on 100% financing, so I work at putting in no money to start with. Then I start to look at the property, and do I think I'm going to get 52 weeks? Is that realistic? And this is a lower range property. It doesn't look the best, so I'm dropping it to 50 weeks at least, and I would look in a bit more about that, but I wouldn't work on 52 weeks. Rental appraisal 300 to 320, so I'd put 310 in the middle. Oops, 310. So we're going to get total rent of $15,500. The first thing I then look at is the gross yield. So $15,500 divided by 245 gives you a 6.33% gross yield. So that means the rent is going to pay the interest, it's going to pay some of the expenses, so it's going to be reasonable cash flow, and it's worth looking a bit further. We then list out all the different expenses. So insurance, it's important to be realistic. I normally go on to Initio, so www.initio.co.nz. Have a quick look what would be reasonable insurance on that property based on what I know. So I'm just going to guess at this time, but it might be about $1,000 a year. At the moment, I'm working on 4.2% interest, and we'll look at a 10-year picture as well. So this is just the 1-year picture. So the interest is going to be about $10,000. I work on property manager's fees, 7.5%. Rates, they might be about $2,500, and you'd need to check a bit more. All the areas are really different. And repairs is the big one. This, to me, reasonably run-down property, big property, lots of trees, needs painting long-term. You've got quite a few items there. So you're probably looking at least $3,000 in repairs a year. And to me, you need to be realistic with that. Properties do cost money to maintain. If you want to get good tenants, you need to keep spending money on it. So what this shows overall, the gross yield, 6.33%, is actually not that bad. But after we take out all the expenses, and like I said, I've allowed on fair repairs, which I think is fair, the cash flow is actually minus $4,662. So this shows that, don't just rely on gross yield, and you need to look through the whole thing. I would then look at what sort of chattels depreciation you might get. To be honest, I don't think it will be worthwhile on this property. I don't think the carpets, curtains, dishwasher, stove, heat pump, or other chattels are going to be worth a lot. So I wouldn't worry about getting a chattels valuation done. And if you did spend money on carpets, curtains, that sort of thing later, we'd use the cost price to depreciate them. But I'm going to allow no chattels depreciation for the moment. So you're making a tax loss, $4,600. Current rules, if you can offset it against a higher income earner, you're going to get $1,500 back again. So really losing $4,600, getting $1,500 back in tax, $3,000 loss. To be honest, I would be wondering why with this property. I think it's a very average property, unless you can do something major to it, like can you do some good renovations to bring that rent up a lot? Subdividable, it still might not be worthwhile. Can you add another dwelling? The same, the cost is probably not worthwhile, but you'd sort of look like that. Unless there's some other big added value potential, I don't think this property works. Then what I do is I look over 10 years. So I've put some data in my estimate of capital gains, estimate of rent increase, estimate of inflation, what I think interest rates will do. And I've sort of worked from 4.2 building up to maybe towards 6 long term. So then what I do is look at a 10-year picture. What do I think is going to happen with this property? So I'm guessing it's going to go from 245 up to 370 of value. It's a big guess. I don't have a crystal ball, and I generally don't want to rely on that. I think the rent is so they're going to go up from 15,000 up to 18,000. All the expenses are also going to go up with inflation, and the big one is interest. So if you're going from sort of 4.2% up to maybe near 5.5%, 6%, it's going to go up a lot. Your cash flow goes from minus 4,600 up to about $8,000 minus, negative. No chattels depreciation, so your tax loss is the same. Tax refunds, we're estimating that ring fencing is going to come in. So you're going to get some small tax refunds maybe at the start, and then they're going to disappear. You're not likely to get them long term. That is still coming through, so there is no definite, but yeah, it's most likely some sort of ring fencing is going to come in. We're then looking at an overall cash loss, losing sort of 3,000 year 1 up to about 8,000 year 10. And I've put the weekly loss there. So yeah, $60 a week up to 161. The last total is the interesting part for me. This is the cumulative loss that you're making on the rental. So over 10 years, you're looking at losing 68,000. That's cool hard cash you have to put into the property. So almost 7,000 a year on average you're going to have to put into this property. So this property is an example of what I'd say is gambling on capital gains. You're going to put in $70,000 over that 10 years of cash to prop it up, and you're going to be gambling that it goes up in value. Like my estimate's 129, it's going to go up. To me, that gamble's not worth it. I'd much rather buy a property that's got a much better cash flow, or there's the potential to add value, subdivide, minor dwellings, duplex, those sort of things, so that you can turn the cash flow around and really make it work for you long term, so that it's at least break even or close to it, or that long term you're actually getting a positive cash flow from it. And that's our aim long term. We want a debt-free personal house and passive income, so ideally we want our rentals making money. So hopefully this has given you a nice example of what a sort of standard rental looks like. Like I say, I've tried not to be biased. I've tried to take the first one I could find on TradeMe. And even the cheaper property, $249, getting a 6.5% gross yield, to me it just doesn't work unless there's something else. So yeah, make sure you've liked our Facebook page. We put up a lot of other posts, videos, things like that. And also if you like our newsletter, we send out some great information on that as well. Thank you very much.